When I made the decision to drop, I felt relieved, but it hurt to walk away from the women that you had a common bond with.
A life that get him the attention that the new freshmen or like the recruits are looking for. The fact that a school has been identified as a party school is almost a wink and a nod to the Greeks that enforcement of the student code of conduct has been passed on by the university, that they can engage in a variety of activities that are never going to truly be investigated, never truly going to be disciplined. You know, unless your product is really killing someone, people don't care.
A life girl, better known as Jenny, was discovered in her apartment on the San Diego State University campus.
Jenny's funeral was at the synagogue in Poway. Just the amount of people that show up and the amount of people that are crying and there to bury Jenny just speaks volumes to the type of person that she was. And I'll never forget that day. To have to actually physically bury your friend, somebody who you've spent weekends with, somebody you've seen laugh, to know that their life just stopped. I was angry. Where did these drugs come from? Who's responsible for Jenny's death?
I remember seeing her picture and recognizing her. I definitely knew people that knew her and were shocked because we all thought what happened to Jenny was really tragic. After Jenny's death, I remember I reached out to the lieutenant and I asked him, what steps do we take from here? And he said, we're just going to call the medical examiner. We'll write an incident report. And that was the end of it. It just felt funny, an incident report, like that can't be the end of it. I didn't think her
to make a hot pocket. So hold on. Why are y'all just staring at me?
It should end with an incident report. She was somebody's child. She was somebody's sister. As a police officer, it's part of who you are to try to prevent it from occurring again. We did a good job at making arrests for possession, but it was hard work trying to pinpoint where the drugs are coming from. I approached several supervisors and suggested that we do a long-term narcotics operation. I was very quickly told, no, that's never going to happen. That's too political. When kids go to college, there's going to be some drinking, there's going to be some partying. But I think if you unveil a larger issue like cocaine and overdoses and things like that, that can impact an institution financially. Universities see themselves as being partners with the sororities and fraternities, and they make a lot of money for them. They don't want bad press. They often defend themselves as separate organizations, but there is a fairly significant payroll at the university that is there essentially to promote those organizations. The administration would have to admit that there's a problem. Nobody wants to send their kids somewhere where they have a drug problem. When you have a department that's connected to a larger institution like San Diego State, you're only going to go as far as they'll let you go. You're not going to do anything that's going to embarrass them politically, but I continued to push. I wasn't going to give up. I wanted to make sure that we saw this through to the end. In September of 2007, I had become the sergeant in charge of the special operations unit there with our department. And I wanted to do something about the drug problem on campus. I did bring it to my chief's attention. He very simply said, you know, there's a problem here, address it. But you see these students every day. It would be impossible for us to work in an undercover capacity because they would recognize you. So I reached out to the DEA.
The San Diego State Police Sergeant called me and asked if we could help him and told me what his problem was. What killed Jenny Polikoff was cocaine and alcohol. Well, I can't do much about the alcohol, but we can go hunt the guys that are slinging the cocaine.
We got to see the numbers, the number of cases that they had coming in, the number of calls related to overdoses on campus, not fatal ones, and the number of contacts the San Diego State Police Department had with students related to drugs. And that gave me a picture that it wasn't strictly an isolated incident. Cocaine was prevalent, so was ecstasy, so was methamphetamine, which surprised me on the university campus. For me, having young people die needlessly is not acceptable. And if we could do something to change that, then we need to.
We needed to try to figure out, was this an isolated couple of guys doing it? Was it a big organization? We didn't know. And I thought, I think I have just the group to go on down there and clean that up.
I had a feeling that the university administration would view this as a negative to the university, that it would give the university a black eye and they would mar the reputation. That struck me. Young kids shouldn't be going to college and dying.
We just came back from summer break and we've had a whole semester of dealing. There's more buzz around the house. And you could see the benefit from the buzz around. Our very first rush week, our pledge class went from like 14, 15 in my class to like the high 30s in our very next class. I think, you know, in a weird way, morale went up. Once we were in it, we definitely weren't shy about showing the profits from it. You go to Pacific Beach and you have 3 or 4 girls with you and your 2 buddies, and by the end of the night, you know, I would have a couple $1,000 tab. You're floating a little bit higher than everybody else. You have a secret that you're hiding from everyone. You haven't been put in jail or gotten in trouble over it. Nothing was going to stop us.
How people age has to be studied.
The way the investigation started was exploratory. To take down an organization, you start by identifying it, and you use informants or undercover buys to identify who it is you're dealing with and what it is they're doing. We inserted an undercover on campus to buy drugs at a very low level, here, there, or anywhere. Her story was that she was a community college student who was planning on transferring to San Diego State soon. To get in initially, she made a phone call to a number we'd identified from a source and asked to buy drugs. And they said, okay. And then she went down and bought drugs. And then she did it again. And one thing led to the other. We talked to informants, talked to people who knew things. We identified what the sources of the cocaine were. And that ended up being the fraternities. There's probably a lot of circumstances where you can find a favorable situation to sell dope, but this was a really good one. All the elements were there to make a lot of money easily and relatively safely. The environment was secure and refined. The customer base was there and had plenty of money. They were selling to people that they knew or felt they knew.
Fraternities are a brotherhood. You take an oath, and there's an allegiance that's ascribed to being in a fraternity to your brothers. And that's helpful if you're conducting criminal activity.
It is the perfect storm for something awful to happen.
On February 24th, 2008, we responded to
this
another
was-
student, a male, Kurt Baker, who was found deceased at one of the fraternity houses there.
Tragically, a second college student died of a cocaine overdose in a fraternity house this year.
Kurt was a guy who was in Sigma Pi, and there was a lot of drug use in that house. I know one guy in the house who used to sell cocaine.
I thought, this is a problem. We've identified it. It's developing into a significant trafficking group that's having an impact on these kids, and it's dangerous. It made us think that we were in the right place at the right time doing the right thing, but we were just running out of time.
I had informed my chief. I said, hey, I need to tell you about an operation that we're doing with DEA, and he told me he didn't want to know. And that was his response on a couple occasions.
There was a concern that people who are not as immediate part of the operation will tell people. So as we develop any operational plans, we want to keep the circle of people who know things limited.
The less people that know, the better. The last thing I wanted to happen was some administrator at San Diego State to get wind of what we were doing and burn the whole thing down.
You would always have the stranger approach you at the random fraternity party, coming up to me looking for cocaine. I would say, get out of here. I don't know what you're talking about. But if they come with your friend, that's a different story.
Beginning of April, our undercover was introduced to Ken.
This girl called me up and said, my friend from Mesa College would like your number, and they're looking to pick up some cocaine. And I said, if you can vouch for her, then yeah, feel free.
She bought a couple grams of cocaine from him, gave him cash. All of that was
I
recorded.
ain't never seen.
A purchase was made from Chacho, and that was a larger purchase.
Our undercover officer bought an eighth of an ounce. At that point, she asked Ken if he could get larger quantities.
You want to get an idea of how strong this guy's connections are and where can we go higher than him.
She asked me if I could get bigger amounts. I said, sure, no problem. I could even get a quarter pound if you want.
If this guy can do that much weight to the kids on that campus, he's a significant player.
By that time, I am looking forward to our formal dance that's going to be at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. And I'm looking to get rid of everything that I had in my possession and turn it into actual dollar bills before we headed out of town.
Towards the end of April, it turns out that the undercover agent had received a text message.
The group supervisor came skipping up to my office and said, get a load of this.
I'll read it to you. Attention, faithful customers. Both myself and my associates will be in Vegas this coming weekend. Bad news is we will not be here to complete sales. Good news,
Is from now until midnight Thursday, grams are 35, eights are 110, quads are 210. So stock up. We'll be back Sunday night.
Unbelievable. I can't believe I actually even wrote the prices.
I think Chachio and the others felt exactly like they were untouchable. They took advantage of the fraternity environment to very good effect. They're not worried. They're talking to their customer base. They're fine with them. And they were really, I think, arrogantly complacent.
with a focus increasingly on Theta Chi. If Ken was not available, our undercover was able to buy from other people.
Kenny had a group working for him, and he was the ringleader.
As April concluded, we were able to determine that transactions had occurred involving 9 different fraternities, and our undercover did over 130 drug transactions, buying from people. But that's a lot of drug transactions during